Hi, and welcome to my Animals Guide for Rimworld. I am Icon, and this video shall guide you through all the things you might want to know about animals in this wonderful game. The first half of this video will be more about how to handle the animals and how to get them into the colony, how to make the zones for them, and how to tame them, and all these things that might be useful for you. And the other half of the video will be more about numbers, stats, how to understand the big old readout on the animals, because honestly, this is quite a mess. But after this video, you're going to understand it better. And if you like this kind of content, drop my channel a little subscription and you won't miss any future content. Alright, so we're going to start out with the fact that every animal living in this game is able to be part of your colony. There's no excuses. Whatever lives here is tameable if your animal skill is high enough. Your animal skill is found in the bio here, and the higher it gets, the more proficient the colonists gets at taming and training those animals, and the success chances get higher, and you can tame and train more complicated and fierce beasts. So animals serve a variety of different uses. They can be summed up to a few things though, being pack animals, like carry stuff on your caravans; combat animals, defend your colony in combat situations and accompany your colonists while they're doing their work; and fluff animals, which are there to make your people get nuzzled and make them happy, like cats and things like these. And last but not least, the category of livestock, like pig and hen, which deliver you eggs, and animals which give you milk and wool and such, which come as alpacas, and all these are kind of an own category. And it all depends on what you want to achieve with your colony to select which kind of animals fit into your budget. You will always need somebody who's good with animals. Let's look at these people here, like Animals 0, and you won't be having any chance. Animals 2, that's not too good either. Animals 3, but at least a passion, so Wilkinson is at least not a hopeless case. Same goes for Fernand, but we only have Fugly here with an animal's value of 8, and that's pretty good to work with. So if you want to tame animals, it's quite easy. You go into the wildlife menu and you give that guy you want to have here on the taming thing a go here. Make sure that you have somebody assigned to the handling job on a high priority, and then the following will happen. Your colonist will go to that animal and try to tame it with the food of its choice. So you'll have to make sure that you have food the animal actually wants to tame it. You can always see what they want to have in the diet section here. So you see a turkey can always be tamed with veggies and meals and stuff like that, but that also means if you don't have any of those, you're unable to tame those guys. But the next thing that'll happen will be your colonist, like Fugly will, let's see if I can trigger that event. Yeah, prioritize taming. So let's do that. He'll go over there, grab some food the turkey will like. In this situation, my Beastmaster has a plenty of food. Now he grabs out his food and talks to the animal, and there goes the potato. Some feeding is always involved. And then you have the tame failed with 31% chance. So basically we had a 31% chance that this thing might go okay. Now we can tame that again. There's always a interaction timer which has a cooldown. I think it's about 12 or 24 hours. I'm not too sure about that. But the next time possible, Fugly will try it again and again and again. So this way you can get the animals into your colony. After they have been tamed, they are part of the animals section here. And here it gets a little bit more interesting and complicated, because once they're part of your colony, you can actually start training them. So when you train an animal, you can give them new tricks. Like, so the first thing is always the tameness. Once this here is no longer fully trained, the animal will go wild again. All the things you teach an animal will decay over time if they don't get refreshed. So we're going to cover that up in a second. Next up is the guard function, which will make the animal defend its master if he gets attacked. It's semi-useful because, well, the animals will only act when it's already too late, so don't rely on that too hard. But it might save you in a pinch. I made good experiences with it overall. Next up comes the attack. So this way you can, once this is trained, you can actually assign your animal to a master to accompany him. And this is this option here. So once the attack has been fully trained, you can assign this here, and this means once your colonist is drafted, the combat animal will follow its master, and this here will enable that the combat animal will always follow its master when he roams over the lands, so you can decide. My usual go-to tactic is that. Next up is rescue. Once the colonists are downed, animals with this skill will try to save them. It's quite unreliable, but really good. And last but not least, the haul. And once they have mastered this, they will randomly start hauling jobs for your colony. Awesome stuff. So all this stuff doesn't come for free, though. It's all part of a long and lengthy training process, which follows the same mechanics as the taming process. So here goes. To learn guarding, Fugly would need to do this training 3 times successfully, and then we have 3 successes accumulated and the animal is able to guard. Same goes for attack and so on. It's the same mechanics every time. And the animal's wildness, which goes here, is giving you the number how often the training will decay. So wildness 25% translates into a decay interval of 10.5 days, which means every 10.5 days 1 token of these will decay. That's how the training works. So that means the more animals your colony has, the more handlers you will need. But over the long course, animals are very, very powerful, and you can make a very, very good use for them. But it's really important that you have also a zone assignment for them, because if you don't do zones, your animals will all roam over the map and always be in trouble, and you're always going to be angry. So the zone management tool in this game is going to solve your problems about that. So you can go for this here, and it's in the zone tab. Nomen ist Omen, and expand allowed area. You do 1 left click and then you can manage areas. Here we can do new areas, and one basic zone I do for every setup on my bases is like this. I do a new area and then I invert the whole area, and now this makes things go like this. If I would assign this here, the animals would be allowed to be everywhere on the map. But I'm going to use this now to clear the allowed area and cut out all the areas where I don't want my animals to run across. So this way I'll be making sure that the animals won't be running across the private rooms of my colonists and don't drag any dirt in there. And you might want to have a zone assignment for your animals that they don't want to enter your freezer or store your food, or even worse, liquor. Keep your animals away from liquor. Sometimes it's also pretty wise to do something like that. So I'm forbidding the animals in this scenario to enter my crops, because if you're living in a very sparse and hostile environment, your animals will start eating your crops before they're done, and you're going to hate your life if you didn't do that. So with these tools you can adjust the areas where you want to have your animals and where not, but I already covered up the most important things. Keep them out of the private rooms, keep them out of the freezer and away from the liquor, and if there's not enough grazing area, keep them away from the crops. So that's the zoning tool in a nutshell. In this situation here, I also set up a animal danger zone, and if I assign my animals to that, they're confined to the bluish zone you see here, which is exactly the inbounds of my fortress. So I'll use that in case of a raid or something like that. You can get quite creative with zones, but this covers up the basics. The rest is up to you. So the next really important thing to know about is kibble. Kibble is basically animal food, and you can do it at the butcher table. For kibble, you'll always need a certain mixture. You'll need hay, like 50%, and raw food for the other 50%. With the raw food, you can put pretty much everything into kibble that you want to do. Keep in mind that insect meat and human meat are never considered to be a bad thing for animals. If you have any psychopaths to butcher up your raiders, you're good to go to do some nice animal food, but you can also put the raw raider corpses into an accessible zone for your animals. They'll feast gloriously there. So, and there's nobody unhappy with it. Just make sure that your colonists won't run across this rather unpleasant sight. All right. So this covers up your basics, how to deal with your animals. There's also here the slaughter order. You can also assign certain medications for your animals, and there's also bonding. Once somebody's bonded to an animal, he's going to be very unhappy if it dies, and he wants to be the master of this animal, and he's going to be unhappy if he isn't the master, and he's going to be very happy if he is the master. So what did I forget? Oh yeah, so here in this scenario, I'm having already those wargs ready, and there's Fugly. So I want to show you, I'm drafting Fugly now to give you a little example on how this will work. And since I did this assignment, the wargs are now coming towards their master since he's drafted. And in a combat situation, you only need to set this on a green check, and the animals assigned to the respective master will go straight ahead and try to unleash hell on your enemies. You can do quite strategic pack assignments with different masters if you have like different animals you want to use. If you have your elephant brigade you want to bring in first, and then you want to send in your mad alpacas, you know, this game got you covered. It's up to you to get creative with it. I just give you the tools. It's quite simple, and that's pretty much everything that is about it. The rest of it, the animals will do on their own. Be aware of the following too. If your animals are wounded, they will need a accessible sleeping spot, or else they're going to wander around until they break down and die or exhaust. If you want to doctorize them, give them free accessible sleeping spots, and they're good to go, because usually they start roaming toward that place. Usually. You're never safe from the AI. And that covers up pretty much everything I have to say about animals, except for one more thing. When you go for growing zones, there's the hay I was talking about before. You need to sow it out, and here, hay grass. That's the key component for kibble. That has to be mentioned as well to make this video complete. And now let's go to the more theoretical aspect and talk a little bit more about the stats and numbers of animals. If you're just interested about things, how they work, you're done now. You can do whatever you might want to please. Just keep in mind this means the animals are predators, and how to do it safely will be covered from here. So animals come in a few different levels of intelligence. So we go here, the common rat comes with the trainability level of none. Animals like these can only be trained to get to be tame. A rat has no real use, so people won't be even buying them. You can just safely slaughter them if they ever self-tame into your base. Another thing are cats. They also have a trainability of none, because cats do what they want to do. But they also have something which is called a nuzzle interval. So some animals can nuzzle, and when they can, they'll make people happy with doing that. This gives colonists a temporary mood boost, so nuzzle is quite useful. But animals with the trainability of none are most likely undesirable. You can check it out here if you see what people will buy. The cat is being bought because it has a pretty powerful nuzzle, but the rat is not being bought because this animal's pretty much straight out useless. The next level of trainability goes on animals like the Mutalo, which is the level simple. These animals are only able to get the guard training assignment, and after that's being done, you can assign them to pack beasts right now, or no, not true, you can already. So this only unlocks the ability that the Mutalo will fight back when the pack gets attacked. Not too useful, but like I said, not useless either. So next level of intelligence on your animals will be intermediate, found on a lot of animals. And when there's intermediate trainability, there's the ability to attack, and that's where the fun starts. You can train tortoises to attack. But you can also train raccoons because they're also having intermediate. You can really go for some funny things if you have a closer look on it. Just want to mention the wild boars being also intermediate. So go crazy, have fun. And the last level being the advanced trainability, and that covers up all the animals which can learn rescue and haul. So these are the levels of training, but now we're going to get deeper into the readout here. I'm going to cover up pretty much every information, and I'm going to start with the more interesting things and end with the less interesting things, so you have a certain selection here. So always keep in mind animals in your colony have a certain value. You can earn big money with them, so if you check out your neighbors' desires and what's on your map, you can sell off animals pretty good. A very interesting thing to know is always how quick are animals, especially when you're hunting them. Keep in mind what's happening there. And next up is, for our purposes here, the minimum handling skin of the animal. So a warg needs at least a level of 5. Check it out when you want to buy animals from merchants. So make sure that you have somebody who's able to tame that friggin' jaguar you want to buy yourself. It's really important. And according to that are also very important numbers here. Revenge chance on tame fail. So you see, trying to tame those beasts in the open wild is very dangerous. 35% is really high. And revenge chance on harm, that's more of a thing when you're hunting them. And next really important thing is the combat stats. First off, forget the first number. The melee DPS number here is very, is leading you always to false assumptions. Of course it's true, the higher the better. No, not going to talk about that, but what's behind the brackets is more interesting. So the first number is how much punch is in one attack. 13.5 is quite a lot. Second number is the hit chance. 62% is pretty much the average of most animals. And next up is the attack delay, and 1.63 seconds is very quick for animals. So you see here the warg has a very high attack damage and a pretty quick attack. There are a lot of animals which pack a higher punch, but wow, be careful. Also interesting is to keep the armor penetration in sight. Wargs have a pretty high skill here too. And the next numbers, which I always love to check out, are things like the wildness. Wargs have a quite high wildness, and filth rate. The higher they are, that is the higher the filth gets. Carrying capacity is only interesting when the question of pack animal is answered with yes. So if pack animal is flagged with yes, you'll see behind this number, let's check out a friend, the Mutalo. So you see here carrying capacity 158. So pack animal, yes, there we go. Next up is the leather type, which is also quite interesting to know, and the amount. the meat amount. Keep in mind that when you butcher animals which you own, the meat amount gets increased by 50%. That's been buffed recently. Also pretty interesting to know are the temperature scalings. Sometimes when you're living in extreme biomes, that can be a problem. The diet, I covered that up a moment ago. The body size, okay, that's a quite interesting gadget to know. Hunger rate, though, is a very, very important thing alongside with life expectancy. So hunger rate is showing off how quickly your animal gets hungry. And you see here, that's the food bar. The number here, 2.1, depicts how much of a nutrition is needed to fill that bar. And the hunger rate here is how much nutrition the animal needs per day. Very important numbers. And oh my god, I forgot about breeding. I'm so sorry, this belonged into the first part. So if you want to breed animals, it's really simple. You only need a male and a female specimen in your colony, and they'll do the rest alongside. They'll get pregnant at some point, and you have to be careful with pregnant animals. You have to protect them a little bit, and don't take them into caravans, because if they get hurt too much, they can miscarry. Pretty important thing to know. If you have animals like reptiles or other egg-laying specimen, you want to make sure that you have a storage area assigned which takes eggs and is not below sub-zero temperatures and is not accessible to animals which like to eat eggs, because a fertilized egg gets easily eaten by a dog or something like that. Keep being aware of that, and that's all you need to do about breeding. The animals will do the rest. Just make sure that the animals and that the males and females are staying together. That's also pretty important. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about firepower of animals and how to compare that. So if you look at the Mutalo here, the Muffalo's punch is 10.5. And the only difference to the warg here is the lower attacks per second and the lower armor pen. But you see here, the Muffalo already is quite powerful if you go on a one-on-one with them. Same goes for the wild boars. If you look at the damage here, it's only average, but you have to keep in mind that the wild boar always comes in a pack. There's stuff like the tortoises. They're really harmless, like 8 damage on 2.6 with a very low accuracy. You can pretty much ignore that. If you want to know low damage, always look at the weaker animals on the map, like here the rat. That's low end damage. But you'd be surprised about the firepower of animals like raccoons that have a bleeding chance. Sadly, the game doesn't give you any good readout about the type of damage the animal does, because some animals can do bleeding damage and some don't. But you have to learn that from experience, or, well, think about it a little bit. Like, most of the time it just makes sense. If you think about a horse, the hooves don't make bleeding wounds, but the tusks of a boar will. Same goes for the paws of a cheetah or a megasloth, which is a wonderful example for a pretty powerful animal which features a stupidly high melee attack. So you would see here only the melee DPS of being only 1 point higher than that of a warg, but the amount of damage which is in one punch is all about the question whether this animal is able to one-shot a colonist or not, because 21 damage is enough to destroy somebody's vitals or sever limbs, and that's always the break point which makes animals really nasty to deal with. Because if you take a look at our friend the grizzly bear here, this thing is a friggin' fighting machine as well, with 18.6 damage per strike, a nice attack speed, and friggin' 28% armor penetration. So even flak armor will get shredded by a pretty high amount. combined with a decent move speed. So you can really have some good readouts here on those things. The only thing you don't really get a good information about so far is how easy the animal is to kill. The game doesn't give you any good hint out of that readout, which would give you any idea how powerful those are. You have to make your own experiences, and yeah, I think that pretty much brings us to the end of this video. I'm quite sure that I forgot a few things, because that's the nature of tutorial videos, so feel free to add up knowledge in the comments section below. I would deeply appreciate that, because every tutorial video should be having a wealth of information. And I hope you enjoyed your stay. I hope I was able to give you a few new informations, or at least made your stay enjoyable, and I hope we're going to see each other again. Until then, have a good time and goodbye.